So my burn moment 100% in the NFL was, so I got drafted a 5th round to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay.
And I kind of saw it as, oh, they drafted me, so okay, so they want me, right? Which obviously they want you, but, I'm good, essentially. It's not that. No, it's not that. Because you got vets, you got people that's been in the league, you got guys that are like, this is how they feed their families. So things wasn't going so well for me. So I ended up getting cut twice in 1 week. So I got cut on a Friday, and then I got cut again on a Thursday. And, they said they needed room for an extra roster spot because, Blaine Gabbert was hurt 1 week. Then Maurice Jones-Drew was hurt another week, right? So they got to trim the fat and bring an extra running back or extra quarterback. And clearly I'm the 53rd person on the roster. That's what I'm realizing, like, oh, I'm the last. When they rank the entire roster, I'm the last person on the roster because they keep cutting me. So after the second time he cut me, I take a drive down 95 South in Florida and from Jacksonville. So I reached a town called St. Augustine.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a beach town.
Yeah.
It was cool. And then so I was just driving thinking like, hey, man, you know what? At least I have my degree, okay? I have my degree to fall back on. This, clearly isn't working out for me, right? Being cut twice in 1 week, but also the rejection because I've never been rejected in that fashion, especially with something that I loved, because I've always been, everybody that ever makes it to the NFL was the man on every team they played on.
Yeah.
So then it's like you get to the NFL and you're not the man.
Yeah.
And then you get told you're not good enough and you have to sit and live with that, right? You got to look yourself in the mirror and you got to find a way or you can fold. So in my trip to St. Augustine, I was thinking about all of those things. And I said, you know what? I do got my degree, but, because they did tell me they were going to bring me back, right? And I said, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to give it my all, right? I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to play the way I know how to play. We're still being coachable. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, I can lay my head on the pillow at night and realize, you know what? I gave it my all. So I go back up. They brought me back on Monday, and I was just practicing with everything I had, and, it was good enough for the first couple weeks, and they activated me on the active roster from the practice squad. So they cut me, brought me back on the active roster, cut me practice squad. So I was on practice squad. Okay. And then they brought me on the active roster because I did well enough in practice. The season ended, and I had an exit meeting with my linebacker coach, and he said, he was talking to me about my season. He was like, hey, look, Brent, he said, I'm not sure if the NFL is cut out for you. And that 100% was part of my burn moment because at that moment I was like livid. I was hot because this is something I put my entire blood, sweat, and tears. I've been playing football since I was 8. And you tell me that you don't think I'm cut out for this, right? So instead of lashing out at him, because I wanted to go off on him, but instead of that, I said, I'm going to put a chip on my shoulder and I'm just going to show you. And I worked really hard that summer, came back to training camp, only be cut again. So that's the 3rd time I got cut. And so, you look in your mirror and you asking yourself, are you good enough? And it was a lot of that. Like, am I really good enough? And then after that, the Broncos called me. The Broncos called me and they said they wanted me to come down and be on the practice squad. And so I decided to take the opportunity because they had Peyton Manning on the team.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, man, I'm going to go down there and play with some greats. Champ Bailey was on the team, Mm-hmm. And so I went down there and I practiced with that same intensity that I was practicing with in Jacksonville. And it was just crazy because it's like they saw me in a different light. The coaches, the players, the scouts, they saw me in a different light. And I swear, when I tell the story, I'm like, yo, I literally practiced with the same intensity and the same I was doing in Jacksonville. It's just, circumstance. Mm-hmm. So I think that door opened for me and I was on a practice squad for the first 16 weeks. Von Miller ended up getting hurt. They brought me up on the active roster. I played on the last game and I played throughout the playoffs. We lost the Super Bowl against Seattle. Mm-hmm. And that next year I started. I was a starter. So I started in Denver for 5 years after that. Pro Bowl alternate. and things went well, man. I ended up being one of the highest paid players in my position, and that was my burn moment because back in Jacksonville, because I could have easily folded, and I tell kids all the time, it only takes one person to believe, right? So I believed in me when I knew the coach didn't believe in me. He clearly didn't see what I saw within myself, but really all that matters is what we see within ourselves, especially if we keep pushing through. So one situation, one man's trash is another man's treasure. That's the same, the analogy, and that was exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's awesome. You kind of talked about it before, but like, I think we're believers as well, but God, really prepares you for certain different things in your life. And I think obviously that time in Jacksonville wasn't a great time, but maybe that's what you needed so that when you got to Denver, you were ready to start for the 5 years, and be on those teams. So it's really cool to see how like God works in life and how he, dark times, like when Priest was burned, like look at us now, we have this platform, we're talking to you, learning and all these different things, but it is tough in those times though to keep going.
No, it's definitely tough in those times, but it's all character builders, you know what I'm saying? Especially like you look at how, you look at glassware, right? It's molded, it's clay, you're being refined and shaped, and then you get sent through the fire, and then you come out on the other side. Okay, now you're fine china. You're fine china now. When at first you was just mud or you was whatever, but you was being molded, you can sent through the fire. You have to go through something, right? But like I said earlier, I think the blessing is not in what you go through, it's how you go through it. We're all gonna get dealt some card in life that's gonna be unfortunate, right? Obviously you have a big situation, right? So I think it's how you go through it and your testimony after that. And then, I think just giving God the glory.
Oh, absolutely.
And that,
That's it.
that prepares you for life. It's like a muscle. You know what I'm saying? It's really a muscle. Like persevering is a muscle. You got to build it up through. It's an exercise through each little thing you go through. And next thing you know, when something big is on that tree, you've practiced already.
You're ready for it.
You've practiced.
You're molded like glass.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.